Hey, welcome to my YouTube channel. I'm looking forward to actually chatting about this video. Before I jump in, I just want to give a shout out to Dev Color. Dev Color, a lot of y'all are actually subscribing to this channel, and I'm super appreciative of that. It's been a long time coming, me doing this channel, and I'm happy that I finally have the bandwidth to be able to start doing this on a consistent basis. I have a Discord. This Discord is going to be open source, so if you check out opensauce.pizza, there'll be a Discord link there. Feel free to go over there and chat with me too if you have any questions, if you have any ideas for videos or concepts I should cover. I'm happy to hear that too as well. I want to mention that I stream every Tuesday and Friday on Twitch. Twitch is a place where I do a lot of live coding. I work on open source projects. I contribute to open source as well as build my own side project, which is open source, which I just mentioned. It's called Open Sauce. You should definitely check it out. And now let's jump into the content. So I sent out a tweet that basically said, always have your pitch ready in 4 or less slides. And a lot of people had questions about that. I actually got a couple likes, which is cool. I appreciate it. If you want to follow me on Twitter, I'm bdougie on Twitter. And this actually came out of the idea of I was actually working on a project that I wanted to sort of enhance the experience of open source in the Black community. It's something I've done in the past, this event called Floss and Code, which haven't really done a really good job talking about it publicly. But this actually came out of that idea where I just had that pitch ready to go, and whenever somebody wanted to hear about it, I had the pitch ready. And that's actually just, it's kind of testament of how I've sort of always had my career ready, or I always had the pitch ready to go. And it actually came out of the idea of me previously writing tons of blog posts on my developer story. If you check out This Developing Journey, if you check out bit.ly/c 6 zeros and DE, which, I should probably link stuff here. I will definitely do my best to put them, here or here, and we'll see how that goes. My editing skills and video, it's still up and coming, so I'm still trying. So what I'm getting at is that I constantly had a practice of writing out my story, sharing content, and just being ready to talk about stuff that I'm working on. So with that being said, having those 4 slides ready to go for any pitch that I'm ready to share has been sort of like a foundational point. It actually came out of another conversation I had a couple years ago with one of my coworkers. He was saying, have your pitch ready, because he was working as an engineering manager, I think actually a director. At that point, I had mentioned an idea I had for a GitHub feature, and I said I didn't really know exactly how to explain it or how to sort of pitch it. But he ended up telling me, this pitch it. The more times you talk about it, the more times the more times you'll understand how to pitch it properly. So I take that into consideration when I sent out this tweet. I got a couple of responses, and one of the responses that sort of really resonated from Nikima, which I wanted to talk about my idea of how to craft your perfect pitch. Now, this pitch could be either for trying to get your pull request merge. It could be for trying to get people's attention for trying to get your next job. It could also be pitching products. I leverage this actual framework a lot when I get on stage for conferences. And so it's a big deal for me because every conference talk I've given, actually every conference talk I've given, literally, because I learned this from my first engineering manager when I worked at a company called Block. And this was like a conversation we had around structuring content. I struggle with grammar. I constantly mix up words. I constantly leave out words in my paragraphs. You'll find that when you read a lot of my content. I constantly have to reread things, constantly have to sort of organize my thoughts to make sure that everything is crisp and clear. So with that being said, having a plan of how you're going to write your content is ideal. The way I'm going to explain this is hopefully going to provide structure to everything that you do. Hopefully it can help you in you convincing your peers that your code is correct, that you deserve that job, or that your conference talk is on point. So I'll break this down in 4 different sections. This is the way I break everything down with an acronym, which is SCQA. And SCQA stands for situation, complication, question, and answer. So if you have those 4 concepts in your pitch, you're pretty much golden. So I'll break this down in each section, and hopefully you'll have some pretty good takeaways from this. Situation. Situation is the portion of your talk. I also use this for conference abstracts. So if you're interested in giving your first conference talk or getting on stage, well, I know currently we're in the COVID times, but hopefully this video sort of lives past the cure, and we're back into doing conferences and meeting in person or in person with caution. So I mentioned situation. Situation is the portion where you identify what is the reason for you being here. Like if you think of like the scientific theory, hypothesize like why you were here. I tend to, like when I write my GitHub issues or when I write a Stack Overflow question, I always set up the sort of the facts of the matter. So if I found this bug and I want to solve this problem for the bug, I will write out the situation of how I discovered this. If I was using Firefox and I happen to notice there's a very nuanced animation CSS bug, I will outline the fact that I was using Firefox on this machine, doing it this way, and I clicked this button or this happened. Like set up the situation, like why are you here? That should be the first goal. This is also in conference abstracts. Set up the situation. If you're going to talk about CSS animations in React or in Vue or in Sapper, explain the situation that they exist, that you can do animations in jQuery, you can do animations on the web. Animations have come a long way. Animations are slow. Animations are fast. Whatever it is, set up the situation. Hopefully that's very clear. Second one is going to be complication. Complication is going to be where you really sink in the reader, the listener. So set up the complication of what is wrong. So you kind of lead into this with the situation. A lot of times with my conference abstracts and even talks, these sort of blend together. But you should always write this out so you can have like a clear distinction. Sometimes if I'm doing quick and sloppy work, I will blend this together. Or if I just don't have enough words to use, sometimes abstracts can only be the form of a tweet. So you can't really get really expansive on the thought. But the complication is really going to be what is the ceiling you're trying to break through? What is the flaw? What is the bug? If CSS animations in React are slow or complicated to use, that's where you explain the complication. This is where you explain the struggle of trying to learn something. If you don't have the struggle or the complication in your content, it's hard to really grasp and like really understand you as the author, the reader, the speaker, whatever it is, the developer. Include the complication of your content and why is it that someone needs to read this? A lot of times you could take the complication and make that your title too as well. If it's hard-hitting, if it's concerning, if it's confrontational too as well, like highly recommend leverage that context in your title. Make sure that that comes across so people understand. Yeah, you're right. I've seen this before and it stinks. Like I really don't like the way this works. So I'd love to know how I can make this better. Which brings me to the question. The question itself, this also could be your title too as well. So maybe I probably, let's zoom back a little bit. Make this your title. Why are you here? The question is, how can I make CSS animations better? How can I make it faster? How can I make it more performant? How can I do this? How can I learn animation? I think all these are great examples. So if you're a CSS animation guru or you're into, Green Socks or whatever the animation library you're into, that's really good context. Like you probably have, I think a lot of times I talk to a lot of junior devs. I talk to a lot of developers who don't know what to talk about on stage. And I think what you really need to do is find out what questions you've answered in the last week, in the last month. And that should be your context. That should be the sort of platform that you stand on to be able to get people excited about what you have to talk about. I've been doing some conference speaking for now about 5 years now. Yeah, 2010. I'm looking over here because there's no clock. There's a clock, but there's no date. So that's my thinking corner. But I bring this up because, yeah, I've been doing a lot of conference speaking. I've been finding out exactly what it works. I hope to do a whole deep dive on submitting your first abstract and submitting your CFP. Get your foot in the door for conference speaking because I think it's a very rewarding experience, especially if you're looking for your next job, if you're looking for the next promotion. I know that there are companies out there, I'll let them be nameless, that actually give you bonuses for speaking on stage. So highly recommend. If you can swing it, like the conference speaking is not for everybody. I could barely make a YouTube video to be quite honest. Like this is all new for me. So like give me a little grace. But I give you grace for conference speaking. If conference speaking is not your thing, there's always podcasting. There's always blog posts. There's all this type of stuff to get your foot in the door for growing your career. So I say this because what was I talking about? The question. You should know the question. Write down the question, please. Once you have your question, you've got your situation, you got your complication, you sort of like have the lead up into why people are there. Now you answer the question. So you should not be proud of the answer. If you want to give a teaser in the beginning, you should always roll from situation, complication, question, answer. And that should be your intro. And you can go back to the well, go back into the situation, go back into complication. But remember, the answer is going to be this is the climax. This is the exactly why they're here. What value you're providing is the answer itself. Also, it's totally fine if the answer is not an answer. If the answer is another question, that sometimes is okay. If the question is like, this is not a solved problem, but this is what I've done. But yeah, if the answer itself is, I have not solved the problem, that is okay. Because you could always build on that. If you constantly have that question you're solving, like imagine you're trying to solve, is evolution an unanswered question? I don't know. That might be very controversial to say. What I'm getting at, there are certain things that are not solved yet. And if you continue to try to answer those questions, or you continue to make that your sort of backbone of your content, of like what you're talking about, that is totally fine. Because one day, people will solve that question. Definitely write down the answer, share the answer. So if the answer is do this one trick or do these 10 tricks, number 5 is going to be crazy. Whatever it is, you should have that answer provided. And as long as you follow this framework and how you outline your pull request, oh, I should probably turn off my notifications. This sort of situation, complication, question, answer, I think will do really good for you. And it's done good for me. It's done great for my career. It's part of the reason why I am a developer advocate. I personally try to find out places I can scale my job, my career, the ways I approach things, and make it easier. So if I can scale things, that's awesome. So speaking of scale, if you're interested in automating your developer workflow, definitely check out some of the videos I've got on Get Action Traction. We've got a repo. We got a repo actually, and it's bdougie/Get Action Traction. I'll give a description in the below. Yeah, so I hope this was actually informational. This is how I line out all my content. This is how I actually lined out this video too as well. Thanks so much for watching. I'm gonna have more videos like this. If you have any ideas for videos, if you want to see certain content, if you want to see my deep dive and how I gave certain conference talks and how I built those. With all that being said, I'm gonna see you on the internet. Man, this pizza talk, man. I'm not having pizza tonight, but pizza, there we go. So